Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving straight into one of Earth's absolute wildest creations. Imagine stepping off a plane and touching down in a place that looks less like our home planet and way more like a fever dream painted by the gods. We're talking about a completely alien world of razor-sharp stones, upside-down trees, and animals that literally do not exist anywhere else in the entire universe. It's a place where evolution was basically just left entirely to its own devices. Welcome to Madagascar. Now, to actually understand why Madagascar is so utterly bizarre, you really have to wrap your head around a truly colossal number: 88 million. That's how many years it's been since a massive chunk of land literally broke free from the continent of Africa. Just think about what that scale of time actually means. While the rest of the planet was going through ice ages, continents colliding, and this massive mixing of countless species, Madagascar was effectively a locked time capsule, left completely alone out there in the vast Indian Ocean. Its DNA was essentially trapped. It transformed into this isolated, alien world completely forgotten by time, which, as you'll see, allowed life to take some very, very strange turns. Act 1, the isolated fever dream. Let's kick off our expedition in the west, where the landscape flat out defies all logic. Just look out at the horizon. The trees look like they were planted upside down, reaching for heaven with their roots, while their massive trunks just balloon toward the sky. These are the ancient baobabs. But there's a tragic secret hiding here. These 1,000-year-old baobab trees, they aren't actually a natural forest. They're more like a graveyard. See, for millions of years, they stood inside a massive, dense tropical forest. But when humans arrived less than 2,000 years ago, all that forest was cleared for farmland. So the baobabs are actually the spared, sacred survivors of that lost world, standing like solitary sentinels over a totally altered landscape. And this next number brilliantly illustrates how they actually survive in such a harsh, sun-baked environment. 32,000. That is the number of liters of water each one of these massive ballooning trunks can hold. If you were to tap into one of these ancient giants, you could literally fill an entire swimming pool. They are basically living water tanks that have been watching over this land since way before our continents even had names. And this is absolutely crucial, because adaptation is nature's ultimate problem-solving tool, right? When the environment drives up, life either figures out how to store its own ocean or it perishes. The baobab, it just chose to become the ocean. Moving past these remote river crossings, which by the way require immense faith in some seriously rickety wooden boats, we come face to face with nature's own razor wire, the Chingi Damar. It's this massive stone maze made of limestone blades that tower 70 meters high. Honestly, it looks like the earth just cracked open and bared its jagged teeth. These stones are so sharp they'll slice skin with the gentleness of a scalpel. For generations, locals avoided this labyrinth entirely, and you can totally see why. Even today, crossing it requires immense bravery, inching your way across swaying rope bridges suspended right over the jagged abyss. It's an environment that demands absolute respect from anyone who dares to navigate it. Act 2, evolution's wildest playgrounds. As we descend from the jagged granite peaks of Ondrangre National Park down into the lush lower valleys, we enter what I like to call evolution's wildest playground. Here's where we really see how 60 million years of completely separate DNA evolution created over 100 distinct species of lemurs. They exist absolutely nowhere else on Earth, and let me tell you, they've developed some incredibly outsized personalities. Take the sifaka. Their legs are built entirely for leaping between trees. So when they're forced to cross open ground, they do this hilarious sideways hop, kind of like a synchronized ballet troupe. Then you have the bamboo lemur, constantly twitching with all this nervous energy. The red-ruffed lemurs, who basically lounge around like living velvet cushions. And my absolute favorite, the giant indri, walking around with these wide eyes and a permanent expression of absolute, utter shock. But as darkness falls over the sandstone castles of Isolo National Park, things get a little spooky. The eye emerges. This is a nocturnal lemur with these crazy bulging eyes and a remarkably long, totally skeletal middle finger. Imagine being out in the pitch black, trying to navigate an echo chamber of sound. Well, the eye taps that skeletal finger against tree bark like a built-in biological sonar, literally listening for the hollow spaces where grubs hide. It is part spirit, part predator, and it hunts perfectly in the dark without ever even needing to see its prey. Now, we absolutely cannot talk about Madagascar without mentioning its true masters, the chameleons. Half of all chameleon species on Earth live right here. We're talking everything from the size of a hefty house cat all the way down to creatures barely larger than your thumbnail. And they boast some insane evolutionary hunting stats. They have independent 360-degree eye movement, which means zero blind spots, none. And when they finally strike, their tongue fires faster than your eye can possibly follow, stretching to twice their body length and hitting the target with your precision of a laser-guided missile. Lurking among the ancient Mahafali tombs, these beautiful stone markers weathered by time, is Madagascar's apex predator, the silent fossa. Since Madagascar has no lions or tigers, evolution had to get creative and make its own deadly, elusive ghost. It hunts lemurs straight through the canopy with terrifying agility and precision. And honestly, this is a stark reminder that even in an isolated island paradise, nature still plays by very strict rules. Isolation still requires an apex predator to keep the entire ecosystem perfectly balanced and healthy. Act 3. The Highland Human Heartland. Following these winding ribbons of red earth that snake across endless amber hills, we leave the wild parks behind. We arrive at Antananarivo, a sprawling capital city built right across a series of hills, like some ancient amphitheater. This city is the beating heart of a 26 million strong population. It's a truly stunning testament to human persistence, showing how a thriving community can adapt to one of Earth's absolute most geographically challenging landscapes.
And the contrast you find here, they are just staggering. Despite being consistently ranked among the world's 10 poorest countries, this remarkably resilient nation has achieved what seems completely impossible. High up in the cool highland waters, using imported Russian sturgeon, Madagascar actually produces Africa's first and only luxury caviar, Rova caviar. It's a royal delicacy born from a place that constantly makes the impossible seem inevitable. It is such an incredible lesson in human ingenuity, finding these really high-value opportunities in the most unexpected places.
Surrounding these highlands, life moves to much older, unchanged rhythms. Survival here still heavily depends on understanding the seasons. You'll see these beautifully sculpted rice terraces cascading down hills in perfect geometric patterns. But the earth beneath is restless. Boiling geysers shoot steam straight out of the ground, and deep, dark crater lakes, like Lake Tutriver, sit quietly inside ancient volcanoes. It's this beautiful, haunting landscape that constantly reminds us of the immense geothermal heat sleeping just below the surface. A heat that, as we're about to see, completely dictate the rules of life in this part of the world. Act 4. The Ocean's Ancient Highway. Let's transition over to the coast where the wind turns the sea into an absolute playground. On the beaches, you've got 150-year-old tortoises acting as living bridges between centuries, literally carrying time itself in their shells. Just off the shore, beneath the turquoise waters, patient coral reefs explode in colors that barely even have names. But the real spectacle? That happens further offshore. Every single year, the ocean becomes this majestic highway. Humpback whales undertake a staggering 3-step journey. First, they leave the freezing waters of Antarctica. Second, they travel an incredible 8,000 kilometers right across the globe. And third, they arrive in Madagascar's warm lagoons specifically to give birth. They travel all that way just to let their calves take their very first breaths in these sheltered tropical waters. Act 5. Forged in Volcanic Fire. Following the whale songs northwest across the Indian Ocean, we cross over into the Comoros. Now, this is a completely different nation, and it acts as the ultimate geological opposite to everything we've just seen. Think about it. Madagascar spent almost 90 million years perfecting its impossible creatures through patient isolation and ancient stillness. The Comoros, on the other hand, it's a newborn land. It's actively writing its story right now through constant, violent volcanic change. In the Comoros, the islands themselves are barely disguised volcanoes, and the contrast is raw and immediate. You have beaches made entirely of black lava sand that erupted just centuries ago, which is a stark difference from ancient weathered coasts. You have the Dragon's Back, these dramatic, jagged rock spines jetting into the water looking exactly like fossilized sea monsters. And then you have these vibrant emerald lakes sitting impossibly close to the turquoise ocean, separated by just a tiny strip of sand, hiding all this intense, raw power right beneath green carpeted plateaus. It's a harsh, violent, and yet stunningly beautiful environment. At the absolute heart of all this stands Mount Karthala on Grand Comore. This is a sleeping giant that flat out refuses to stay asleep. It boasts a massive caldera 3 by 4 kilometers wide. Get this volcano has completely rewritten its own landscape over 20 times in just the last 2 centuries. I mean, think about what that means for the local flora and fauna. When an island rewrites its landscape this violently, it means every single plant and animal has to constantly adapt to absolute destruction just to survive. It's literally the Earth creating new worlds in an instant.
And that brings us to a really fascinating thought. Standing before a smoking crater like Carthala, we're left to wonder, if absolute isolation and ancient stillness created the dancing lemur and the upside-down baobab over 88 million years, what unimaginable creatures will evolve right here in the Comoros in the future, once these baby volcanoes finally have time to cool?
So whether it's through millions of years of silent isolation or the violent, fiery birth of new rock, the Earth is always finding bizarre ways to adapt. We've seen what happens when an island is completely cut off from the rest of the world. But if you think isolation creates strange worlds, wait until our next explainer. We're going to discover what happens when a country is almost completely empty, and exactly how Mongolia's vast sweeping emptiness shaped an empire that ended up conquering half the globe. You absolutely will not want to miss it. See you then.